morning, and welcome to DRBMiller podcast for Wednesday, the 17th of March of 2021. Welcome to all of our community members, participants, squad mates, friends, and viewers on all platforms. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being valued members of our online gaming community here on Twitch, and indeed here on my channel. First of all, I want to thank all of you who are taking time to write. And as you know, my podcast is something new here on the channel, and it's a new venture. It's a venture that indeed arose from the feedback that came from our community and the overall analysis of what we were doing here over the last couple of years. And I'm very grateful for everyone who took time to write and to provide us with your thoughts and views on all that's been seen so far. It's our third installment, the third episode of podcast. Today we started out with our new venture on Monday, and I'm very pleased with the responses I'm getting. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. As you know, everything I do here is based on our community involvement, our interactivity, our connection with various participants worldwide. And what's really beautiful about Twitch and what we do here on this channel is that as I use Restream to stream to various platforms, we get information coming in from all ends, from different platforms, from different parts of the world. So it's not all Twitch based. I mean, I get information on Twitter, I get sometimes messages coming by email, and just generally coming from various parts of the internet and the global community of gamers, and that's wonderful. And sometimes I get names of people who I do not easily recognize. I mean, to be fair, lots of gamers use a variety of different IDs on separate platforms, so sometimes it's confusing. Somebody like Sekapupu will have 3 or 4 different IDs on various platforms that he's using for his online gaming. But obviously I'll be familiar with his, as he's one of the dedicated veterans of the channel. But with other people it is harder to detect. But first of all, thank you for the feedback. I think everyone had enjoyed the news and our community discussion so far, and I think overall concept that I introduced, which basically starts out either on the news, which are industry and community related, or the questions coming in from our participants, and combining the two every single day, has been seen as the best of the two worlds. And I'm very glad, because I think sometimes we're people waiting in the lobby for our big games like Destiny 1 and 2, Apex, Fallout, Warzone, PUBG. I think some of the gamers got a bit impatient because my introduction could be very lengthy and we could talk for anything from a few minutes to a couple of hours about different topics. And not everyone is keen on debating if they are there in order to play a game. And we have all our different gamer and participant preferences. Therefore, having a separate slot for discussions has been seen as a good way forward. On the other hand, also enabling less time spent on community discussions within the actual game time, and allowing obviously a lot more space for us to just crack on with certain activities. That's particularly the case with PvP games, and I really have streamed a lot of PvP games here on the channel, and on reflection, maybe even over the top with the whole PvP involvement, because as a gamer I like playing a variety. I like enjoying RPGs and story-driven content. I like single-player games as well, in addition to the games that connect us all together within a great community online. And after going back to the games like The Witcher, then Skyrim and Oblivion, and then Mass Effect, and then most recently Fallout, which in fact we had revisited yesterday, just reminded of the beauty of that massive big open world. If there's something I love about video games, is this massive big open world, which is representing our community in all sorts of ways. Obviously, sometimes could be greatly transformed, but the activities we have in our local community can also be transferred to how we behave in a video game. If we are just walking around, exploring different corners of Wasteland, as it is the case in Fallout, or any other, like for instance walking through the wild in Skyrim. And therefore you can really see the side of somebody's character, the gamer's character, to the way they play the game. And this is really fascinating, being a clinical psychotherapist, obviously, it always interests me how people behave in a certain environment, dependent on various factors and influences, be it through weather conditions or through their mutual interactivity or the environment itself. Sometimes there is huge amount of thunderstorms, rain, danger of flooding, earthquakes, you name it, and this could be affecting people's behavior. So it's quite interesting how the games really represent human behavior, and then once we get into a game like, for instance, Gears 5 or Anthem, with 4 people coming in who are conducting a particular activity, indeed in Warzone as well, and PUBG, you will see then a combination of the two. You've got this environment which is affecting the players who are live, the active, that play their characters, the operators, you can call them whatever, and the way they behave will represent the way they are. And I find it fascinating because I think more than any other game in Warzone we really had seen the way people really are, so the way they behave and behaves. And the reason for that is quite simple. Warzone is a battle royale military simulation tactical game, which means you will need to be strategizing on how to survive a very deadly environment. So, similar to what we have, for instance, in our community at the moment, we're facing a deadly pandemic which is taking so many lives. We need to find methods and strategies through which we are going to be able to survive. And obviously we know full well what we need to be doing out there in order to beat the virus, which includes obviously everyone needing to be vaccinated at the moment. But in a game, you will have different challenges which are arising from the environment which is created on the spot. And that's fascinating. And I played with very many different gamers on the platform, and I obviously in Warzone I've had 2 different slots really. When the game came out, I played just with randoms, and this would have been maybe for up to 8 weeks. And the fact that the game is celebrating its first year anniversary this week, so it's been 12 months since the game was launched. But it does feel like several years, doesn't it? It feels like it's been with us forever. It's really weird because when I think of PUBG and I hear that we are celebrating this month 4 years of its initiation, I find that really strange because it feels like PUBG has been with us for longer, and it must be to do with the sheer quantity of matches we played and all the time, and energy and tactics we invested in those wonderful tactical military simulation games. And it's the abundance of activity, it's the richness of what we do there and the way we kind of interact. So for myself, playing in that environment was divided into 2 different sections. One, playing with randoms all the time for an extended period of time, and then when I've gone back to the game a few months later, half a year later I should say, I really wanted to create a community of gamers from the pool of randoms, which is what we do here in any major multiplayer game. So I continued playing with the randoms, and then each time we would bring in 1 new community member and then add on maybe 1 or 2 selected from the pool of resources. And it was very, very interesting, but the actual behavior of our group once we were fully formed together was significantly different. And I think anyone interested, you can just watch our streams, which are archived on YouTube, and you'll have the abundance of activity, and you'll see how we basically went up the ladder with our tactics and strategies and everything else. The major difficulty I faced with Warzone is that this is first of all an 18+ game, and it's a highly competitive type of shooter, whilst I run a channel that is a non-competitive, community-based and all-inclusive. And that's been the greatest challenge I think on my streaming broadcasting career so far, because on one hand you get people coming in who are highly excitable and highly impulsive, and they will react on a drive where in fact they know full well that they should not be doing certain things, and therefore they will be in a full breach of our channel rules and Twitch rules as it goes. And we had one incident, or one anecdote in fact, where there was one person who begged us to put him on to be live on air, and he stated he absolutely will be compliant with everything. I said fair enough, we'll do that, but make sure, because he was obviously participating in live broadcast for the first time, and I'm always in 2 minds, because you never know, people might crack, they might come up with something which is unpleasant, but you always have to give everyone a chance, right? And everything was fine up to a point where he was the last man standing, and we were down to the last 6, I think last 7 or 8, And obviously, in that situation, you will get compromised sooner or later. If you're lucky, you're compromised by another, solo player, the other last man standing. But if not, you're being jumped by a team of 4, and that's exactly what happened to him. So he was able to engage 2 of them, and cracked them. They were down, and the other guys eliminated him. He just blew his stop. He just let rip. And I had to switch him off immediately, and he apologized afterwards. And I said to him, did they not say that this is not something you can do when you're live on air? It's just not on. You receive like a lifelong ban for doing this. And it just on one hand it was of concern, on the other it was hilarious, because he literally he indicated earlier that absolutely he is a very civilized, polite individual, and he will never ever do anything like that, which is in breach of the Twitch and my channel rules. But it happened on a drive because he couldn't contain himself. So these are the challenges, and I think anyone who is doing Warzone and other competitive shooters like Apex or PUBG, I think PUBG probably less so, because it's not really a highly aggressive, highly dynamic type of game compared to the other two, and it's all about cat and mouse. It's a big map, and you need to be really hiding quite a lot and trying to survive through various kind of sneaky beaky techniques, which you can have. Obviously, if you drop into the middle, into hot zone, there's going to be very, very hectic, but that's not the way to play PUBG. We know it all. So therefore, the other 2 games, and particularly Warzone, does remain, or does pose a challenge for anyone who's a streamer. And in fact, I researched this a bit in view of some of the recent developments on our streams, and I talked to some of the other guys, and they said, well, it's very difficult to contain all of that toxic and unpleasant content, because if you are doing it with lots of unknowns, lots of randoms, you really will have sometimes people fully muted, and then at the moment when something goes wrong, they switch the mic on and start ranting, and they become really unpleasant, very aggressive. And I actually, to be honest with you, I think the greatest responsibility in order to tackle this sort of online abuse is with the publisher, because the publisher and the developer have the ultimate control over what's happening through the servers, and they're doing absolutely nothing. They're doing really absolutely nothing at all to enforce safety. And I've had some dealings with Activision recently, and I was appalled, because on one hand you can be reporting somebody for cheating or technical glitches or boosting exploitation, and that's all to do with technical issues, people purchasing illegal software, which obviously labels them as criminals because they're breaking the law. And absolutely, these means through which we can report cheaters are absolutely fundamental and necessary. But how about the rest? I mean, how about people harassing, people being racist, being bigotry, being unpleasant, being terrible to, for instance, most importantly, female streamers? I mean, 95% of the streamers who are receiving absolutely appalling abuse online are basically younger female streamers, and it's just ridiculous. It is something that needs to be absolutely cut to size and policed, properly and appropriately. And I've written to Activision, and they're just absolutely oblivious to this. You get automated emails, and I think it does indicate that the company of that size, with that revenue and that degree of market domination, is oblivious to concerns. And I'm afraid I'm not really inclined to be going down the statutory route, but I think there needs to be some degree of regulation, so that these people, those companies, have ultimate responsibility, in which they will be brought to book if certain things are happening that are, for instance, inciting hate, violence, civil disobedience, rioting, and etc. I mean, if you think about it, if somebody was using Twitch and Twitter and all other platforms in order to incite what is considered to be mutiny, then evidently statutory agencies would get involved immediately. But if somebody is abusing somebody who's of a different race, religion, or different gender, then that's just seen as nothing. Well, it's just not right, because we need to be, first of all, attentive and polite and civilized towards everyone and anyone in all circumstances. We need to have systems and structures that are protecting what we consider to be civilized, and equally punishing what is affecting our social order. We can't allow people to be doing certain things which are damaging to the way we function as a community. and there've got to be rules enforced. There've got to be agencies and bodies policing and ensuring that everything is in order. And I think I talked a bit about this on a broadcast recently, but I really feel that after 20 years of online activities in all shapes and forms, the creators of certain parts of that environment, or people who are monitoring it, people who are providing services like Google or Twitter, for instance, they really need to get their act together. They really need to create regulators of their own who will be monitoring what's happening out there, because quite frankly, we will have a reflection of what otherwise happens in our local community out there online, and the interactions are, both similar and very different. Lots of individuals hide behind anonymity, and they think if their user ID is anon356 that they will never be caught. Well, that's not the case, because you need to be using your ISP, and ISP can detect any message, wherever it's coming from, with ease. We know exactly where it came from, so if necessary, it will be detected straight away, and you'll know exactly where this person was and exactly who he is. So don't think that having an anonymous ID is providing you with a shelter or a hideout in which you're never going to be found. It's just not the case. It's down to the willingness of the authorities or the providers to basically enforce. And I just find that incredible that the global online space is still as vulnerable and as open as it's ever been. I mean, to be fair, we did have some other safety measures introduced, and in Britain in particular, we had court orders applied to websites, and the ISPs had now accepted, or they've been, I'm not sure whether accepted or whether they were told to really comply with the new law. Therefore, people cannot be accessing certain websites as they're blocked by High Court. So you enter, the email, the website address, and you'll get a pop-up saying, due to the High Court order and the laws which prevent access, due to the laws which are, I don't remember the actual wording. I need to read it out for you. But anyway, it says, due to this High Court order, these sites are not accessible, full stop. And that means that you cannot access it through the server. The server, the ISP, is running the filter that's preventing the access. And I think that's really great. I think it's wonderful, and it is preventing harmful or defamatory or questionable content from being accessed. But it doesn't apply to all sites, obviously, and I think there needs to be a greater sense of not control, but we need to have sections of those communities which will be then regulating and policing the overall conduct, because I personally always want the online forums to be pleasant and entertaining and educational, so that humanity can move forward. But we've seen that it can work certainly in reverse, and this is of great concern to us all. So coming back to my earlier point, running competitive shooters on family-friendly channels is challenging, it is difficult, and it provides us with lots of situations where perhaps a new mindset needs to be applied. And I'm very grateful to my community members to have been providing me with thoughts, views and reflections on how they felt. And I think overall what I'm taking away from my community, people who are with me every single day, that they're also a bit divided, they're also in two minds, because for many of them who are active online gamers, they're not quite yet at home with the difference between doing it, let's say, in a trio or duo, whilst you're doing it outside of any live broadcast, and then being present on YouTube or Twitch or Periscope, Twitter, if you're restreaming. Because evidently, if you're doing it on many platforms, many people watch it, and they will have a reaction to what's happening on the screen. And I get sometimes messages and I get feedback, and overall I think it's been very, very positive. But these are the challenges for any broadcaster, and I think I'm appalled by the number of complaints that I can see coming from female streamers, because they feel that frequently they're at the receiving end of absolutely horrendous abuse. And I deplore anyone who is doing that sort of thing, and I think your place is certainly not here on our online gaming communities. And if you want to be ranting or venting out your aggression, well, first of all, why not join like a kickboxing team, or a martial arts class, or if you do something which is very physical, do some military exercises, join like a local military fitness group that's going to be drilling you, so you can actually experience what that is like if you were to be in the military. And you can get rid of some of those aggressive drives and feel a lot more domesticated and fully pacified. So that is what I would recommend. Please do not come to our communities and then rant and offend others, because if you come to my channel, being a person who worked in the professions that are regulated by the law, I will just go down by the book, and someone's going to knock on your door. And it's as simple as that. I absolutely have zero tolerance towards any form of belligerence and abuse, or indeed anything which could be considered defamatory or unpleasant towards my community members. And that always will be strictly enforced, not just by myself. I have a team who are cooperating and facilitating these services for me, and they will take action on my behalf. It's as simple as that. Right, so thank you to all who wrote and people who were indeed expressing their gratitude, their positivity, and providing us with feedback that indicated that this podcast so far has been received very well. So today we have several questions, and I think I'm quite curious, quite excited about several. But what I'll do today is I'll just turn tables a bit. Yesterday we spent 95% of our time discussing community-based issues. Today we'll look at the news first, and we'll be looking at the questions in a little while. So first of all, I need to tell you that yesterday we had the beginning of Macbeth Festival. So what's Macbeth? Think about it. Macbeth, Microsoft Bethesda, right? Bethesda. I beg your pardon. I keep saying Bethesda. In fact, it's Bethesda. I don't know why. So it's the Microsoft Bethesda event that indeed kicked off yesterday, and this event will be aligned with all the niceties that we are getting from Microsoft Bethesda on Xbox Game Pass and all of the services. You will know from our podcasts and from the news worldwide, the biggest deal ever in video gaming history was indeed finalized on last week. We had a live broadcast on Thursday comprising us two teams together with the heavyweights discussing what is to follow, and we want to be absolutely aligned here on this channel with everything that is exciting and interesting and upbeat in the industry, and that's one of the most exciting things that's ever happened. And also the line that Microsoft presently is taking, for which they are boosting instant access to the gaming and the xCloud and console and Android-based services, is just revolutionary, and they really had invested a lot in all of those services. We are talking about billions and billions of dollars of investment. So it is incredible that today, compared to the old, where you had to be queuing up at a local shop in order to get your Doom or Dishonored or Fallout original physical copy, today you can just click, and you can even do it on your mobile phone. They introduced, I've seen today, several games. I think it's Doom and Fallout, and there's Dishonored, which all can be accessed through xCloud services immediately. So if you're traveling somewhere, if you're up and about, in a park, you want to catch up with some activity, you want to do some farming, you want to do some pedestrian stuff, not like massive big shooters, like Warzone, but things which are easily done on that device. You can just pull out your phone, enter, basically load your Xbox Game Pass app, click on the game, and indeed you can just crack on. That's incredible. I mean, I played Dead Cells, I played quite a selection of platformers on my xCloud, and they work perfectly. It's just incredible. The only thing is, for me, my Sony Xperia 5 II has a relatively small screen, so I much prefer grand screens, the big displays where you really immerse yourself in the environment. But for some of the platformers, it's not really always necessary, particularly if the graphics or the characters are fairly large. That's not the case in Dead Cells. In Dead Cells, I have to say, the characters are quite small, so it did affect me somewhat. But you can play Destiny if you want, Destiny 2 on xCloud, and you don't have the controller-free gaming with it, so you need your Xbox controller. But still fine if you, for instance, want to spend some time somewhere away from your TV set, or if other family members want to watch it, if you want to go to a local park and you pull it out and you need to have the controller with you and just crack on. So we want to be absolutely aligned to all of those interesting things that are happening out there. And I think my channel will be more and more tied to Xbox and Microsoft developments and the Xbox Game Pass compared to what we had in the past. To be fair, I did stream quite a lot of games off Xbox Game Pass, but I think the recent developments are far too significant to be ignored, and they are giving us the opportunity to be revisiting some phenomenal older games like Morrowind, for instance, that I've not played for 15 years, and then Fallout 3, been away from it for about more than 10, and just download and play. And what's really important, and I've got to stress this, Fallout 3 and Skyrim are delivered in remastered editions. These games look incredible. I mean, they're much superior to what you had originally on 360. That will apply to all other Bethesda games introduced this week to Game Pass. And in addition to this, they're also enhancing its frame per second rate. So its FPS rate will be up to 120. That's astonishing. I did have some feedback today from several gamers who were trying it on Xbox One X, I mean the Xbox Series X, and they said that the benefits were just incredible. And it's two things. One is the quality resolution, and the second, the biggest one, is, well, there are three actually. The second one is the smooth animation. So it just seems that everyone's really placid, moving around as they should. There's no any form of choppiness present anywhere, which has been the case, I think, with Skyrim Special Edition until until recently. And then the third one is the loading, because on the next-gen console, the Xbox Series X or S, you have that button which is, I think it's called Resume, and once you click, you immediately instantly load. So there's no waiting period, and that's incredible, because you can have up to, did I say like a dozen games loaded straight away? So if you have several games on your console which are up and running, you can just keep clicking and getting in and out. Well, I mean, I never do that. I always have like one game run at a time. But it's certainly for people who are doing multitasking, do several things at once, and very useful for people who work in industry, reviewing the games, doing streams, wanting to re-click in between two different games, or three different games, or four different games, in fact, if you're doing a lengthy broadcast. That's just incredible, because there's no waiting period, there's no lag, there's no buffering. It's just loading instantly. So you can revisit Bethesda heavyweights like Doom, like Elder Scrolls series, like Dishonored, Wolfenstein, and indeed Fallout immediately, and the frame rate is enhanced. I'm not sure whether they've done it for all of them, but I know certainly that for the Elder Scrolls and for Fallout, that indeed has been completed. So massively enhanced on all levels, and we want to be part of that. We want to be fully aligned to all these activities, and it was my pleasure and privilege to be able to re-enter the world of Fallout 3. And as you know, we have Fallout 3, we have Fallout 4, and Fallout 76. So all of them are accessible on Game Pass. Fallout 76, even with all the additions and all the DLCs and add-ons and the live content as it stands today. So we are going to be revisiting and indeed visiting some of those on my channel for the first time. You may feel that we are very biased towards Xbox, but that's not really the case. It's just all about what's exciting in industry. Once we get some of the most exciting games released on PlayStation, we'll have a look at them. But the problem there is the exclusives are not being released through PlayStation Now services, which are similar to the Game Pass, and therefore me as a subscriber to all the live streaming services, I cannot just easily go there, download and stream. I need to buy a game, and I quite frankly don't want to do that, because I think it's just going against the grain of the trend in the industry, which is telling us that the exclusives, particularly the ones released for Xbox and Microsoft, can be seen immediately on the first day. And what better example will there be but Outriders? I mean, Outriders are a game that I'm hotly anticipating and very excited about, and played demo for several weeks here, both as a single player and with some other friends, and just everything that I really want to see in a game is there. And really surprised to see so many negative reactions initially that I believe were creating a negative industry-based bias towards this company, People Can Fly, and I think it's outrageous. It is absolutely disreputable and dishonest for them to be writing like that, because they were trying to nitpick on the issues which usually are attached to alphas and betas, where in fact statements like "this game is so badly written, dialogue's awful" is complete nonsense. It is completely devoid of any form of reality. And I wrote a letter to the guys from Eurogamer. I mean, Eurogamer is a really good online magazine, and I read it every single day. But what the editor wrote about Outriders demo on the first day was ridiculous. It's just, I couldn't believe it. And I just expressed my concerns that some of the things written were definitely devoid from reality. They were not relevant to what we've seen and what we experienced, and the entire online community rebelled and had something to say. And I agree with that, because I really feel that the demo review was unnecessarily harsh and trying to literally pick up on certain issues that are very technical. But writing, is a key issue. If you indicate that the game's so badly written, dialogue's terrible, there's no narrative, a story belongs to like the early 360 days, is very, very damaging to the reputation. But on the other hand, what Microsoft is doing at the moment is going to make sure that the final word is left with the gamers. So you can download the demo and try it, ad infinitum, as long as you want. And this demo is highly replayable, and you can do it as a single player mission together with your friends. And you have the first section of the game, the first chapter and prologue represented in full. They have open world activities you can harvest, and most importantly, all the activities there that you complete you can import to the full game. And that's been seen as something very, very stimulating and very positive amongst the participants within that gaming community. People really love the idea. Therefore, they spend 150 hours already harvesting various things. But I've spent quite a bit of time. I think 14 days for about 3 hours a day, 2 hours a day. So that would be what, 14, probably 80, 90 hours of activity. And also, what I did was I played Outriders on PlayStation and on Xbox, and I compared. And I've got to tell you that on my PlayStation 4, Outriders demo performed a lot better, and everything seemed fine. I'm not sure whether it was to do with the patch and the update that came our way last week, because after the update everything looked a bit different. But I've not tried it again after the update on Xbox. But the initial feeling was they performed better on PlayStation 4 for whatever reason. I think it can be also the case that a lot of work's done on Xbox is more geared towards next gen. So if you are accessing the material that needs to be streamed on next gen, it's likely that there will be some issues, one way or the other. I'm not sure exactly how it works on the tech side of things, but in my experience, the developer could be a bit biased towards either of the platforms. And so coming back to the original point, Outriders will be released on Xbox Game Pass on its first day, which is penciled for the 1st of April of 2021. So we're only about less than 2 weeks away from the release, and I'm very excited. I will be streaming it here on the first day. We are going to be cracking on with the activity there. We want to see all that this game is going to give us, and it's a massive game. It's similar to Anthem and Mass Effect. Its concept and its visuals and the ideas are aligned with that world, but at the same time I'd say they're quite original. And the special powers and the interactivity and various other things there are giving us a lot of opportunities to connect with other community members, to talk, to fight together, and overall to experience that wonderful, wonderful open world in a way like never before. So Outriders arriving to Xbox Game Pass on the 1st of April. So for anyone interested, anyone who's played the demo, and anyone who is considering whether to play it on Xbox or PlayStation, well, Xbox is definitely the preferred platform, as you will get the game on that subscription fee together with all the other games. It's a no-brainer. Subscribe for $1 a month, and you'll get anything from 1 month free trial to about 3 months, depending on what region you live in, and you can just explore and enjoy all the games on offer in there that include now EA games as well as Bethesda and many Xbox exclusives as well as all the other games. So absolutely the best possible. So yeah, coming back to this, we've heard that on Xbox Game Pass we are having several new inclusions. Last week 20 Bethesda titles were thrown in. They included Elder Scrolls and series, and as well as the Fallout series, together with Dishonored 1 and 2, Doom, and Wolfenstein, and it's like the whole big selection of heavyweights that Bethesda had produced during the last 20 years, and all of them are now instantly accessible. So we've heard about Outriders, but most importantly we are also getting a new game that is really has been seen as a cult classic, and it's called Undertale. And there's been a lot of excitement about Undertale arriving to Xbox Game Pass because the game was not accessible easily in certain regions, and now it's going to be obviously made ready for anyone who is on the Ultimate. So make sure you try Undertale as well. So there's been quite a lot written about it, and a lot of excitement on Twitter in particular from the industry leaders and gamers worldwide, and I'm equally excited to find out what this game's about. I've heard about it, but not really read too much about its development and the content, so it will be very interesting. Again, on Destiny 2 we are getting a lot of new content. Anyone who is playing Destiny 2 for free will get a major free update, so it doesn't matter whether you are on Beyond Light or any other DLCs. And we are entering the activity called Guardian Games. So this is a grindy activity. It's similar to what we had with Iron Banner and Evil Land Seasons. It's basically requiring any Guardian, i.e. one of the 3 characters, to be completing lots of different tasks in order to get specific weapons and armor. And always good to be doing this if you want to harvest, if you want to be collecting certain items, and I think it's very exciting for anyone who's new. I think for us the veterans, we've already done quite a lot of that, so it's not really the priority, but I always like coming back and doing a few matches with some of our regulars. So this is exactly what we'll do here. You can see this is obviously fully displayed on our screen. Warlock and Hunter. I'm still working on the Hunter. My second character, I was going to be working through the story missions and campaign, but at the moment that is in a complete disarray, and they're reworking the story in the sequel, and all the missions we wanted to replay have gone. They've been vaulted. We've heard that Forsaken, together with all the other DLCs, will be vaulted too. So I'm not quite sure what's happening there. Not been received well by the community, I've got to say. And they are giving us a lot of online activity and content through Guardian Games and all the other stuff that's coming our way. So make sure that you come in, download the update, and have a look at least for a couple of days. We have Spiritfarer and Donut County. So Donut County is another game that can be accessed now through xCloud on your Androids, and Spiritfarer we are presently streaming here. A wonderful platformer, beautifully told, family-friendly game with 2 characters, Stella and what is his name now? The cat, Daffodil. Stella and Daffodil are the protagonists, and we have Della, who is also another character in there, providing us with a lot of activity, a lot of quest-based game action, and then most importantly with that feeling of goodness. You can even hug characters in there, and think, considering the pandemic and social distancing rules, it is going to be appreciated. You can sort of take screenshots of Stella hugging Della and Daffodil, and you can share that with your loved ones, and I'm sure it will be appreciated. It's just a game that gives you really a feel-good on the inside, and I really loved it from the beginning. Lots of people recommended the game to me already for a while. They talked about it on Xbox podcast, but only been able to get to it recently and enjoyed it most thoroughly. So highly recommend it. 10 out of 10, Spiritfarer. And if you are wanting to play it, I think it will be played very well on tablets and Android. It's a game released previously on Switch, and you do not have fighting sequences or anything like this, so it's just simply kind of point and click type of activity with your touchscreen control. It's called controller free gaming, right? So if you go to Xbox Game Pass, you will have a section that gives you controller free gaming, and they're just beefing up on the number of games in there. And to be frank, any platformer should be there which is on their list, whatever they have in the library, and they could simply be easily played on Android. In addition to that, you can probably beef up on some of the other games, because initially they wanted everyone to be using controllers. Obviously, there was the monetary side of things included in that idea, but basically the difficulty there is with a lot of people not wanting to buy a new controller, as just the latest controllers on Xbox have that Bluetooth connectivity. My Xbox One is a special edition of Forza, and it does have a very good controller, but it can't connect to my phone because it's like 3 years old, and the controllers then were not having Bluetooth connectivity. So I think investing extra £70 is of concern to many people, and they express their dissatisfaction with the idea, and therefore Phil Spencer's team listened to this, and they're working day and night in order to enable controller free gaming whenever possible. Right, so we've heard all about some of the new inclusions, but what is mesmerizing for myself is that isn't it just enough we were given 20 Bethesda games last week, but this week we heard about Outriders coming in. We heard about Octopath Traveler, another game which I believe has been released by Square Enix and very popular, will be on Xbox Game Pass shortly. Yakuza 6, they just released Yakuza Remastered trilogy. I think it is 3, 4 and 5. Now we are getting even Yakuza 6. So all the Yakuza series is going to be easily accessible through the Game Pass. The Song of Life also arriving. So just the games keep coming and coming and coming, and they really have now something for everyone, similar to what we get in Destiny 2, the massive big open world with something for everyone. So that's the idea behind Xbox Game Pass. It's not forcing you to play all the games, but you'll have plenty of choice. And also, quite frankly, I was surprised with the number of sports games introduced through Electronic Arts Play, EA Play, as it was called. And if you're a great sports fan, just crack on. You play FIFA, play all the other sports games that they have. Football Manager was introduced last week as well, and just absolutely tip top. So if you were looking at what I've been playing here on my setup in addition to my broadcasts, well, I kind of diversified and I explored a number of games that I discovered on Xbox platform in particular, and one of the two discoveries last week really, and I talked about them a bit. One is Metal Slugs 3, and this is a wonderful old platformer that's been remastered, and it looks perfect on 4K, and really enjoyable. You have this soldier that keeps neutralizing all the opponents in there and collecting scores, and it's just great. I've not played a game like that for a long while. I think I picked it up for nothing. It was offered through one of the Xbox special offers. We get them every week, and really kind of had a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it and recommend it to everyone. Really, if you have a chance, have a look at Metal Slugs 3. You'll enjoy it if you are in awe of the old style platformer games. It's similar to the ones we had on the 1990s PCs, but they're reworked, remastered, and they just look incredible. The activity is all the same. It's very addictive. Beware. The other platformer I played actually quite a few platformers last week. You remember I introduced here Little Nightmares 2, and that was wonderful. I really liked the game, and several people recommended it to me, inclusive of some of our community members who play Warzone and military simulation games. They said, yeah, this is really looking good. We tried the demo, it was incredible, and the game is accessible through Xbox Game Pass as well. So make sure you download and try it. A very, very enjoyable game. It's a bit like a Tim Burton's film, you know. Looks a bit like an animated film for children, but actually it does have a twist and dark undertones, and some sort of what do you call it? An uncanny humor. So it did remind me of Tim Burton's films quite a bit on right from the outset, and the atmosphere is Tim Burton-esque. And so that really enjoyed the game. Played the demo last week here, part of DRBMiller Introducing, and also had a look at one of the recent inclusions on Game Pass, and that is Max and the Curse of Brotherhood. And that is a wonderful game. Honestly, it is family friendly, and you play this child whose brother's been kidnapped accidentally, and you need to be doing all kinds of things in order to get to him, and he faces all sorts of unpleasant monsters and creatures that want to prevent him from getting to his brother. But it's humorous, it's light-hearted, it's upbeat, it's positive, and most importantly has a good narrative, it's a good story, beautiful graphics. You do not feel that you're playing a platformer. That's really most significant. I mean, it's similar to Little Nightmares 2. You know, you play Ori, you still get the idea that this is a platformer, but in this game, it's not as simple. It looks like an open world game, but actually it isn't. It's a platformer. So, you know, really, really cool. I have The World Is Mine platformer, which is exploring the behavior of certain people in a war-like situation, and very excited to try it. I purchased it for, I think it was £2.50 or so. We get so many great special offers through Microsoft Store today, and it's massively enhanced compared to the way it was. I mean, I remember previously, I'm not going to buy anything from Microsoft Store, not good prices and all kinds of issues in there. And PlayStation 4 was literally much superior for quite some time, but a few years back, as they aligned the Microsoft Store to the Game Pass and Xbox Live Gold, loads of discounts at all times and really low prices of many games. I mean, The Division 2, I got it for £3.45. I mean, the world can't get better than that, can it? The game of that magnitude, AAA blockbuster, I got Ghost Recon Breakpoint within the first year for less than £10. I had quite a number of games for £1.50. I had The Division 1 free of charge given to me, part of Xbox Live Gold service, as well as Resident Evil 0-0. It's called Resident Evil 0, I should say properly, but you know, never mind. So you catch the drift. You really want to be fully involved when you're getting all the freebies. To be fair, PlayStation Plus services offer lots of heavyweights through freebies, and I did manage to get the games like The Uncharted 4 and Call of Duty World War 2, Detroit Become Human, Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls. The list just goes on and on. Lots of good games. Just Cause 3, The Curse of Tomb Raider, and so still very good. You're not getting as many games for free compared to Xbox Live Gold, and maybe there's less of a variety, but some of the games offered are absolutely tip top. And PUBG I got for free on PlayStation as well, just remembered. So in addition to all I described so far, the biggest game I'm doing at the moment outside of my broadcast is The Witcher 2 Enhanced Edition, and I purchased it a little while back, also about £2.50 I think, roughly £2.50 to £3. The game was originally released on Xbox 360, and I played it during its kind of release month and loved it. Not finished it at the time, and I've gone back to it now. I'm just reminded of the beauty of The Witcher, because really I want to play the third installment, but wanted to also kind of reacquaint myself with the Witcher world and its own kind of tactics, strategies, and in-game mechanics, because with The Witcher, although it comes across as a game that's similar to Elder Scrolls, you will have many more tricky elements if you are to be winning fights and contesting monsters and opponents, And the Witcher obviously is a character who will be in possession of lots of special skills, so it's very important you learn how to use special skills early in the game in order to be defeating some of the opponents. Otherwise it becomes really annoying and frustrating, where you feel that you cannot defeat them at all. They're just like unkillable. And that indeed is something that Jeff remarked on in one of the recent Xbox podcasts, and I really picked up on that straight away, because I was to be defeating wraiths in the cellar, in the dungeons, and I forgot about two skills which indeed I had, and I was not using them, so it seemed like so hard to neutralize, and I spent quite some time doing it, and I realized, hang on a minute, I'm not using those two special skills, and if I was to apply them, then surely I should be a bit more powerful, because I was using potions which are protecting me from poisons that these guys are kind of spiking at me, and the potions worked, but the other special skills were even more important. So I worked this out, and I need to really learn how to use some of them, because also with The Witcher, if you are streamlining the story, you can get to a section where you need to be eliminating a very difficult boss, and you've still not gone through all the side missions previously in order to go up your skill tree, and you need to be both leveled up and you need to have all the skills in order to defeat the monster. So it's quite a complex game, but it's very enjoyable, and I love the open world, and love the dialogue and the number of characters, and there's quite a selection of games of similar type I played recently. I played A Plague Tale: Innocence, which I love. I think it's absolutely incredible, and probably to a degree underrated and underexposed, I think, in the overall kind of gaming community, because A Plague Tale is really a survival-struck horror game with two children as protagonists, and it's very massive, beautiful open world graphics, and the activities and everything else are just incredible. But they ruined the game at the very end, when you need to kill the main boss, and it's so difficult, and so, I guess they wanted people to use all the skills to learn throughout the game, but I find it to be so frustrating. And maybe it's more difficult to play the final sequence and the elimination of the final boss on consoles, because it requires precision. You're being attacked by so many waves of rats, and if you're not at the specific spot at the right time, you obviously get neutralized, and just keeps repeating itself again and again. It's 3 or 4 waves of attacks on the boss, and very difficult, and that spoiled the whole game for me. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you are learning the skills how to use the weapons in the game bit by bit as you go along, but it just seemed a bit over the top for me. And I've got to say, I love the game, but the ending I do not like, and simple as that. Where was I? I was telling you all about The Witcher. Yeah, so other games are there which are similar, inclusive of Elder Scrolls and Dungeons and Dragons, and the overall Elder Scrolls series. So Oblivion, Morrowind, Skyrim, Elder Scrolls Online, and I played also a wonderful game that does require a lot more attention, Kingdom Come Deliverance, and I have it in its Ultimate Edition. It's called the Royal Edition. Very good game, and it's similar to Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Origins, where in fact you are learning all about Central Europe and their medieval kings and kingdoms, knights, and they have a very in-depth codex in there, like encyclopedia of all these characters, and they're all based on historic facts. So if you're playing the game, you have a protagonist there who's a bit he's young. He's kind of learning how to survive in a very hostile environment, and what knights and what noblemen he'll have to swear his allegiance to. So you really have a lot of exploration of that open world. You need to collect lots of materials. It's similar to Elder Scrolls, but with this emphasis on history, and I find it to be really enjoyable. And I've not finished the game yet, so I still have to get back to it. But I've come to a hurdle where one of the guys has to be, I think he's a son of one of the noblemen, and he needs to be rescued after being kidnapped. And I think I've not done many enough side quests in order to fully finalize on the quest, and that really was a bit frustrating. So I sort of paused the game. I've not gone back to it, but I will indeed go back, and I will want to finish it. Highly recommend it to everyone. So quite a selection of games are there really. All right, so the last one I told you about indeed is a game we started out on yesterday, and that is Fallout 3. Fallout 3 being the legendary new game coming from Bethesda in 2008, and providing us with new concepts that were used many more times after the game was released in many other projects, and it really still absolutely withstands the pressure of time. It just feels so fresh, so novel, so entertaining, so interesting. I'm playing it on the enhanced edition with the complete selection of DLC, so it's the Game of the Year edition. Everything's in there, and I really had one of the best gaming sessions in a long while here yesterday. Really enjoyed it. Really want to invite everyone to pop in, have a look, and become a member of our Fallout community. A wonderful game with plenty of activities, huge amount of dialogue, a lot of puns, and it's kind of a dark humor present throughout. And very importantly, similar to Elder Scrolls and The Witcher, you've got to talk to all the characters. You need to talk to them all the time, and need to find out who you need to talk to, because more people you talk to, greater the content. And that's particularly the case in various areas of Wildlands. When you kind of walk around and you come across certain characters, don't just ignore them. Do not use your fast travel. Fast travel just at the time where you need to do something quick, and when you're completing a particular quest, when the game asks you to go there. Otherwise, just walk everywhere, because otherwise you will be missing out on a lot of content. And the open world of Bethesda's Fallout 3 was revolutionary. It was the biggest, the most immersive, the most complex, with plenty of activities and infinite side quests. That really will always be of interest to everyone. We'll have Fallout 3 on our channel later today, so just make sure you tune in and just join us for a little while. Right, so we have now a few bits of news that need to be told, and we need to look at our Twitter, because our Twitter is giving you all the news of the world, and everything that's happening in industry and also in our community is well represented there. So today we've gone the other way. We've gone down the route of the industry-based news, and then we'll get back to our community members' questions. Yesterday we've done it with the community participants first, and therefore the news was squeezed out. So today I really want to make sure that we were giving the industry development a bit of time. And the first thing we heard is from Square Enix today. In fact, Square Enix do have quite a number of games now introduced to Xbox Game Pass. I'll tell you exactly what these games are. Very, very exciting game. I'm personally delighted and elated that the game's coming to us on the Game Pass. Is Outriders. We played it last week, and you've heard all about it, and you enjoyed it here on the channel as well. Accessible from 1st of April on Xbox Game Pass. Then the other is Undertale. I mentioned it already. So that's a game that's been seen as a major kind of a cult type of a game for many of our participants. Very well received on Twitter. Loads of messages yesterday coming in from the industry insiders saying so wonderful to see that the game, which was so hard to get, is now accessible on Xbox Game Pass. So Undertale coming soon, cloud on console and PC, instantly accessible. I should say that Outriders is accessible on cloud and console. Should be once we reach that date of 1st of April. Then the other I mentioned already, Yakuza 6, that is cloud, console and PC. Then we have Narita Boy also joining. All of those are Square Enix games. Make sure you remember that. I'm very excited about two other games that have been announced today, and a game I really want to play from the very beginning. I've not purchased it because it's still quite expensive. It is Empire of Sin, right? So it's like a film noir game which also has elements of a board game, and fantastic graphics, a lot of very atmospheric type of environment with funny dialogue and puns. So really interesting. And watch developer diaries, watch trailers, watch clips, and as soon as it's introduced to our Xbox Game Pass, I'll crack on with some in-game activities. So Empire of Sin also coming to cloud, console and PC on Xbox. And then the game we introduced recently here through DRBMiller introducing, and it was offered during its free play days also through Xbox, was Star Wars Squadrons. and it was a very enjoyable game. It was bringing us back to the old days of Star Wars, to TIE Fighter games, and X-Wing and all the other ones of the 90s. It looks a bit like that as well, although the cutscenes are very much state of the art, but the fighting sequences purposely they're left a bit retro and really good. So very enjoyable, and really look forward to it. I'll also I mean, when am I going to find enough time for all of this? Just so many different games. Then another game that I talked about already, Octopath Traveler. Right? So this game is going to be playable on console and PC. Then we have Genesis Noir. Again, very excited about it. Anything which is within that film noir niche type of environment is definitely my own kind of personal favorite, so really look forward to Genesis Noir. Nier Automata is going to be downloadable on PCs through Xbox Game Pass. It is accessible on the Game Pass already. Torchlight 3 also accessible then on PC. And then we have Deadfire Ultimate Edition. Well, I did play a bit of it the other day. Pillars of Eternity 2, a wonderful RPG, most highly recommended. You need to really have a look at it. And then we have Supraland, also accessible on Xbox Game Pass and then downloadable to PC. So how many games is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 games altogether. It's insane. Like 12 games introduced through Game Pass, given to them by Square Enix, 20 by Bethesda. I mean, honestly, it's just crazy. You've got to have that Game Pass. Right, so we've heard that Jade Raymond, she was with Stadia, Google Stadia, and she just departed from the company in view of the changes applied a couple of weeks ago. You've heard that they discontinued with some of the services because they found that the services are too expensive to run. They're not getting many enough users for Stadia, and she departed, and she now is introducing Haven, a new Montreal-based game development studio working on an original new IP for PlayStation. So that's fantastic. Congratulations, Jade. We are following you on Twitter, and we are very, very excited to hear that you've got that new project. She's worked on lots of different games in the past, worked for EA, I think, before as well, and definitely one of our very, very favorite industry leaders. So we have a message from one of our community members, and he said, "Hey Xbox and Xbox Game Pass, tech like FPS boost and quick resume is really truly incredible, but what I'm really going to need is for you to develop a program that lets me slow down time so I can play more of these incredible games." I agree with you, Miles. I agree with you, Miles, because we need a lot more time to play all the games at all times. The time just keeps flying by. I can't believe we're already kind of halfway through through March, and I'm still eating my turkey, Christmas-wise, and time flies by. But to be honest, the time's been used very productively. I think here on the channel and overall, I'm living in quarantine 22 hours a day. I'm indoors, but it's been packed out with activity live online, and it's just incredible. I think Xbox and the team really excelled. To be fair, PlayStation Now services also offer lots of different games, but I think if we're looking at pros and cons, the Game Pass services will be winning on balance for certain, because everything can be downloaded. We're getting all this AAA, blockbuster heavyweight titles coming in abundance, and it's just so many different games that plenty to choose from. And it's just a question of having enough time to squeeze everything. And I need to even work out a new system, because at the moment I have 155 games installed on my Xbox. 155 games are installed on my Xbox at the moment, and previously I was very, very disciplined. I could have no more than six games. 155 games. What does that tell you? It's insane. But it tells you that when I download these games, I want to have a look at them. And you have PUBGs and Destinies and Rogue Companies and Apexes and Halos, and the list goes on. The games have got to be there because you keep visiting every single day just to have a look at what's new in there. And I need to be a bit more disciplined. And similar to Jeff Rubinstein from Xbox, my backlog's just growing. It's just massive. I've got my notebooks in here, to-do lists, games to watch, games to check, games to write on, games to present, blah blah blah. And our friend Miles hit the nail on the head. I want to highlight his tweet. Hey, Xbox and Xbox Game Pass, can you please develop a program that lets me slow down my time so I can play more of these incredible games? I agree. Fantastic. The Unholy is a horror game that is going to be released on, I believe, on all platforms. We have a new trailer, and you can access it through my Twitter. It's been originally released through IGN, so have a look. The Unholy. I still, I remember the game being talked about, and we have quite a number of survival stroke horror games coming out. We had The Medium released on Game Pass recently, but unfortunately I can't access it. I don't have the next-gen console yet, and therefore the Medium is like next-gen exclusive. Well, I think in due course they will almost certainly make it accessible on the old-gen consoles as well. But at the moment, because they said the graphics are really highly taxing on the bandwidth and on the processor, it is as it is. So in addition to the Medium, the Unholy is coming up, and then Resident Evil Village. So these are the three titles that we need to watch out for. PlayStation Japan releases weird PS5 lineup ad featuring tons of games. So they really are talking about a number of games being introduced, and it's a 5-minute sizzle reel of PS5 content. And they had, let me see, taking a bit of different approach to the typical game presentations video. PlayStation Japan revealed a 5-minute sizzle reel teasing a number of upcoming titles. A couple of PS5 exclusives make an appearance, but what they really turned heads in this presentation was the odd manner in which the short teasers in the video are revealed. So just a couple of days ago, Sony Japan announced a live stream event set for March 21st, set Play, Play, Play. I need to watch this, I've not watched it yet. That will feature looks at Resident Evil Village, Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate. Well, that I did see on State of Play. It ended the recent presentation, and I've got to say, I launched a lot of criticism at State of Play from the beginning because it was incredibly poor compared to what Xbox does. But the last one was definitely a step up because they received so much criticism from everyone. The people said, Sony, can you wake up? I mean, honestly, just throwing in half dozen trailers without any commentary is just utterly ludicrous. So the last one had the concept used on Xbox permanently with, the developer team coming in and providing us with some tips and comments and views on the game that is coming our way, and with some also recommendations and commentary coming from, I believe, Sony's team or the commentator who they obviously engaged, and that was looking good. And the only difference was that it was lacking diversity. Lots of games looked pretty much the same, with the exception of Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate. Looked really awesome. And if you're interested, if you want to play the old game, just go to our Xbox Game Pass, the old games there, and we'll be able to compare one and the other. But next gen graphics and everything else on PlayStation 5 will be absolutely mouth-watering. So they dropped a 5-minute video featuring a number of big titles coming to PlayStation 5, and the video presents the information on the various titles as it were leaked, as if were a leaked video going viral. So it's quite tricky. So they have Final Fantasy and what else? Resident Evil Village, Returnal. Well, Returnal is definitely of interest. I watched trailers. I'm very curious to see what the game's going to be like, and it's one of the biggies. Also PlayStation exclusive, and it will be released at the end of April, so we can play Outriders throughout April, and then once we come to the end we can crack on with Returnal. Obviously we would need PS5 for that, and I do not have PS5 at the moment. In fact, I could purchase both PS5 and Xbox Series X or S through my ISP, and they have very good offers. But at the moment, paying £60 a month, I think for these two for 11 months would be a bit steep, and I probably will go for one of them first, and then I'll resort to the other. They'll be obviously brand new, and everything will be as it should, and it's the best offer at the moment if you would be paying for a console, on monthly installments. It's just 11 months. it's a fixed price, interest free, so it's really good. But it annoyed me that they've introduced double controllers in there. With double controllers, which are completely unnecessary for myself personally, because I don't have anybody else here in the house to play games together with me at the same time, and us being a streamer, I need just one controller, is just increase in price, and very significantly, like 70, 80 pounds up, which is not necessary. I think if you want to have Xbox Series S, it should be offered on the actual regular price and just with one controller. But anyway, there will be special offers popping in at a later stage. We need to just carry on and see basically what they will provide us with. Highly recommend it to everyone. If you are with BT or indeed with EE in Britain, UK, and you're considering whether to get a new console, now's the time, because that Xbox One S or PlayStation 5 will do you a world of good. The pandemic may well be subsiding in Britain, but we'll have the measures and all the other liabilities still with us for, I'd say, probably at least 18 to 36 months ahead. And we need to just you will be able to capitalize on. I mean, I can tell you, in view of the pandemic, I had upgraded my home cinema system here with Sony Bravia TV and everything plugged in with home cinema system, sound system, I mean, and the experience of gaming and I think overall enjoyment of life and everything else through my live broadcast is so massively enhanced. I just absolutely loved it from the beginning, and it's a step up, and it's been probably one of the best investments that I would have had ever, because from the usual high quality gaming experience has gone to tip top, like 10 out of 10, pristine, the best possible, massive big 60-inch screen, everything plugged in, fantastic quality sound, beautiful animation and graphics, Fallout 3, The Division, Destiny, Elder Scrolls, these games never ever looked better. It's just incredible, and I highly recommend it to everyone. A bit of investment. If you get the next-gen consoles, they're all with Xbox, it's backward compatible, so the vast majority of Xbox titles you can play on it straight away. That's not the case for PlayStation 5, but certainly it will enhance the graphics on the recent releases, the games like Valhalla, Cyberpunk, Watch Dogs, and all the other ones coming our way. Very excited about The Village, Resident Evil Village, obviously Final Fantasy VII remastered, not remastered, remade, and then most importantly, last but not least, is Horizon Zero Dawn sequel. That is an incredible game, and I absolutely adore the game. God of War and Horizon Zero Dawn, some of the best PlayStation exclusives ever released. You've got to play both those games. Absolutely incredible, and can't wait for it really. And the graphics and the developer diaries and everything else have been mouth-watering. Okay, so we've seen that. What else do we have? Still brilliant. PS2 RPG Final Fantasy 12 is 15 years old today. Okay, so that's interesting. And I played it at the time when the game was released. Believe it or not, Final Fantasy 12 is 15 years old today. The PlayStation 2 RPG first launched in Japan all the way back in 2006 on the 16th of March. We still remember waiting what felt like an age for the game to release here in Europe. And reading all about it in the official PlayStation magazine. And if you're interested, they have some wonderful, wonderful, newly commissioned artwork of the game here on Push Square. So go to Push Square, or I should say go to my Twitter, and can access the information. So that's really cool. Horror game Soma has sold an impressive number of copies. Let's see what number that is. And Soma is also accessible through Xbox Game Pass, so make sure you download it and have a look at it. So Friction Games has brought Nightmares to life since its founding in 2006. The creators of multiple horror-laden titles such as Soma, Friction Games is an independent studio based in Sweden, and they're well known and beloved for its ability to strike fear into those who play its titles. It's very scary games, yeah. They had the studio notably doubted itself after the commercial release and success of Amnesia: The Dark Descent. They enlisted the help of development studio The Chinese Room to develop this game, the sequel Amnesia: A Machine for Pigs, which struggled to achieve the same level of abject horror from the original title. So since Amnesia: Machine for Pigs struggled critically, Frictional Games placed itself back in the driver's seat for Soma and Amnesia Rebirth. So they said they officially sold 1 million copies solely on PC, not including sales on PS4 or Xbox One. So the studio accredits the long tail of its titles, inferring to the shelf life of Frictional Games and titles lasting well beyond average. Yeah, I agree. It's not really a brand new game. It's been released in 2015, 6 years old, but still equally scary. You should really download it and try it. Available on Xbox Game Pass. I've got it amongst those 155 games. Played it. Really great. Samurai Showdown is now optimized for Xbox Series X and S with 120 FPS mode for both. So it's 120 FPS game on Xbox. So Samurai Showdown, you need to really have a look at it. And similar to what we said about Bethesda games, Star Citizen keeps making money even with no film release in sight. Well, that's interesting. The crowd-funded space sim passed the 350 million threshold last month, still breaking crowdfunding records, having now raised 350 million following one of its most successful years so far. Well, that's fantastic. It's great to see that crowdfunding is generating such massive revenue, and definitely very interested to see what will happen next. Assassin's Creed Valhalla gives godly rewards to players. So what's that? And Ubisoft is thanking players for continuing to support Assassin's Creed Valhalla with a free reward set that includes a familiar outfit for fans. Alright. It's been a major hit, which we know during its first week on the market. Assassin's Creed Valhalla broke multiple records for the series by selling the most units in 1 week and having the biggest PC launch of any title. It's funny really that the PC was actually spearheading the effort. And that success has continued to this day following multiple updates, and Ubisoft is thanking fans with a free community reward that many should immediately recognize. So you get the patch, update 1.20, and then Assassin's Creed Valhalla was getting armor transmog among other features, allowing players to change the aesthetic appearance of the armor without affecting its stats. So this kind of system has been also featured in series like Monster Hunter, ensuring players can use powerful armor also appears how they prefer. So that's good, wonderful. Fortnite's awful Banana Man is finally dead. What is going on? I didn't find him to be that awful. Why is he that awful? What is going on? Well, this is from Kotaku, and Kotaku is not really my favorite hub. I've got to say that they keep writing always terrible things about developers. Not really my cup of tea. I tend to resort to positivity and forward thinking. You know, not negativity and dirt. They said early this morning, Epic Games unveiled the next season of its mega popular battle royale shooter Fortnite. As is often the case, there is a bunch of cool new stuff for players to mess around with in-game, but the biggest development is the death of Fortnite mascot Peely, the terrible banana skin that has haunted Kotaku editor Riley McLeod since he debuted in 2019. It's been around for about 2 years. And they're saying Peely is grotesque, etc. I'm not interested in that. I'm not reading any of it. Lara Croft heads to Fortnite as Chapter 2 Season 6 gets primal. Extraordinary. Lara Croft in Fortnite. Fortnite is welcoming Lara Croft to the fray as part of its latest season of content, with the famous Tomb Raider being part of the Battle Pass for Chapter 2 Season 6 of the Battle Royale game kicking off today. Well, that's great. Meanwhile, the latest of aforementioned Battle Pass will offer a bunch of new outfits this season, including several iterations of Lara Croft, both in her classic and survivor guises, as well as DC Comics character Raven and Brazilian footballer Neymar. Neymar's joining Fortnite. Extraordinary. Octopath Traveler is coming to Xbox Game Pass. Well, let's see a bit about that, because I've heard a lot about the game, but I've not played it. So Square Enix's Octopath Traveler is coming to Xbox later this month, with the game set to debut on Game Pass for consoles and PCs. Xbox made headlines yesterday due to several new announcements revealing that Outriders would be coming to Game Pass at release. Undertale would be debuting on its consoles. Several iconic Bethesda games had been already enhanced with FPS boost. Today, the team has unveiled another huge surprise for players, announcing that Square Enix's Octopath Traveler will be coming to Xbox platforms via Game Pass later this month. The port was made official by Xbox Wire, with the Microsoft line revealing that Octopath Traveler will debut on both the console and PC versions on Game Pass on March the 25th. Well, that's in a few days away. The RPG was originally released on Nintendo Switch back in 2018 before making its way to PC and Google Stadia. It's a turn-based RPG sporting an HD 2D aesthetic, using a blend of retro, sprite-based designs and modern visuals. Very excited to see Octopath Traveler on Game Pass. PS5, PS4 horror Evil Inside is all corridors and creaking light fittings, so it's another horror game together with the other two I mentioned earlier. And all that aside, Evil Inside looks like it's going to be another competent take on the formula. This brand new trailer, which you can access on my Twitter through Push Square. All that aside, it's going to be another competent take on the formula. This brand new trailer, released by developer Jandusoft, sure manages to create an unsettling atmosphere. The game's due out on 25th of March for both PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4. Evil Inside is a first-person psychological horror game, the blurb explains. After the death of his mother and the arrest of his father for it, our protagonist Mark tries to contact her through the spiritual board, which explodes mysteriously and causes Mark to fade away. That's where it all began. A series of paranormal events will torment him while he tries to gather the fragments of the spiritual board and thus find what is really happening. Right, so that's coming to PS5. Evil Inside. That's for the lovers of horror games. Let me see. Diana is very excited about Undertale on Xbox. Well, so am I. Thank you, Diana, for letting us know. Diana is marketing at Madman, and she's NZ First of Xbox MVP and Xbox Ambassador. She's a community champion. She's one of the prominent members of our Xbox Ambassador community. So great to hear that Diana is very, very excited about Undertale. Grand Theft Auto Online to get loading time reduction patch on PC thanks to fan-made fix at videogamer.com. And we are getting some information from them. The fan's been awarded a cool $10,000 for doing so. Rockstar Games has confirmed that a fan-made fix that reduced Grand Theft Auto Online loading times to up to 70% on PC will get an official implementation in a forthcoming update, and has paid a fan who made $10,000 as a thank you. Reported by PC Gamer last week, the fan, who goes by the moniker Toast, posted to GitHub findings he made by examining the game's code on PC and detailed the method of fixing the issue. It's a little complex for us to get into here, but as PC Gamer note, the game basically created a single-thread CPU bottleneck. Well, I'm not really into the tech side of things, but it's good to know it's loading faster on PCs, and he got $10,000, so that's fantastic. Hearthstone is back, and I think Kazakus is coming back to Hearthstone. The point and neutral legendary has been reimagined as part of the Forged in the Barrens expansion. So Kazakus is coming back. The original Kazakus rotated out standard in April 2018, but the new version has been designed for the Forged in the Barrens expansion, which releases on March the 30th. Very good news. Right, I think that's about it. I know what I really want to tell you. All of you who are listening to the regular Xbox podcast every week would be familiar with complaints coming from many Xbox gamers about the exclusion of achievements section on the Xbox app. They reworked the app a few months ago, and they removed quite a lot of different sections that were previously used. I much preferred the old app, I've got to say, because it was quite voluminous and I was able to access everything everything I wanted to see. And it's been somewhat downsized. I mean, the design and the ease of use has been enhanced, but the achievement section is definitely one that was lacking. And we had this today from Larry, who said that the achievements are coming back, and they are going to be back today. We'll have a major update on the app. Then once we update it, we'll be getting it all. So if you're interested what the achievements on Xbox app are going to look like, access Larry's retweet here on my Twitter, and it tells you exactly what we are going to be getting. So it's a much enhanced, a better version of the achievements compared to what we had before. So that's very good. And also Xbox confirmed you can have your achievements and see them too. Achievements are coming back to the Xbox app and start rolling out today. Right, so these were the news. And now we are going to be looking at the questions coming from our participants. So several questions. There was John from Newcastle said, I really enjoyed your podcast yesterday and all you said about Bethesda and Microsoft, and tell us, what games are you most excited about? Well, John, thank you first of all for taking time to write to us, and always grateful to all of our community members who are providing us with their thoughts and feedback. And great to hear that you enjoyed the podcast yesterday, because it was almost entirely dedicated to what I call Macbeth Festival, and that is going to be Microsoft Bethesda merger on my channel, right? But I think, to be honest with you, I'm first of all very excited about all that's been offered already. So it's 20 Bethesda heavyweights here on Xbox Game Pass, instantly offered, instantly accessible, and Elder Scrolls series. Then you have Dishonored 1 and 2, you have Fallout series, you have Elder Scrolls, and the list just goes on. And personally, I'm very excited about all of those being remastered, being Doom, I forgot, Wolfenstein, and all of them being enhanced for the next gen usage, and that's fantastic, because some of them were accessible through PlayStation Now services. A few titles were also present on the Game Pass, but having all of them in one place will make it very easy, first of all, for us to revisit, and then secondly, what's very important for us, the broadcasters and the streamers, every one of those is downloadable. So I can download every one of these games to my console and then stream it immediately, and it could be on request. Sometimes people will come to the podcast, say, I really want to watch Wolfenstein New Blood, can you please stream it? Absolutely, I'll download it tonight and then we'll stream it tomorrow. You pop in and we'll do it together. It's that sort of idea. It's the immediacy of access, and sometimes if we're looking at the games which are not as great in volume, we can download them immediately. If you're asking for Metal Slugs 3, is it Metal Slugs? Is it called? Yeah, Metal Slugs 3. This game could be downloaded in minutes because it's a very small, it's the older gen game. And let's say somebody pops in here and asks, can we just try it together? Absolutely, it's a multiplayer. Let's just do it together straight away. I'll download it and we'll do it in half hour. I want the channel to be absolutely tied in to our community, as well as the most important developments are there. So really, to answer your question, I've been very excited about the deal to start with. Secondly, I'm very pleased with what I've seen so far, because not just that we can access those games on console, they're also accessible, some of them, through xCloud, which means we can pull out our phone and play them on our Android or our tablet, or indeed some of them can be also downloaded to PCs. So that's terrific. That's just the best possible, and these are really some of the best games ever created. Elder Scrolls series and Fallout, certainly for myself, will be at the very, very top of the best games ever made. And then I'm really excited about what is to come next. Well, what these games are going to be is very, very hard to predict at the moment, because with the merger they will get a lot more capital a lot more investment on the marketing budget. And don't forget, they will be looking at specific projects that be kind of tying in two of these companies together. They did say that they're working on several new games at the moment, none of which are named or labeled. They will not release any information at all due to the obviously the legal constraints, and I'm very excited to hear more. So I'm very excited about all that is to follow next. So that's the thing. So to answer your question, very happy with what I've seen so far with 20 games being introduced, and then very excited about the new games that will be coming our way. We just have to wait for more announcements, and don't forget, as Bethesda is now part of Microsoft, we'll hear all about this through Xbox podcast, which is delivered every week on Friday, and then the regular Inside Xbox and all the other broadcasts that they run on the regular basis. So we'll get to know all about it literally from the word go. So that's what I'm excited about. And thank you very much for writing. Then we have a question from Jonathan. Jonathan is in London, and he said, what I really like about your channel is that when we look at your introduction, we can see that you're not just a fan of video games, but you also love graphic novels. And he says, for myself, I'm a long-term fan of comic strips and have a large collection. Therefore, I was truly delighted to see that one of our broadcasters, our community members, indeed is also doing the same. So yeah, I mean, thanks Jonathan, thanks very much for writing, and I'd be quite curious to hear what is in your graphic novels collection. Do you like European comics? Do you like the British ones, like the 2000 AD, for instance? Are you a fan of Don Lawrence, perhaps with Storm and Trigon Empire? Do you like Marvel and action? So similar to what we have in film, the graphic novels are very, very different. Beg your pardon, I just forgot to mention the last bit of the question. I just digressed straight away. He asked me, Jonathan asked me, what are the current graphic novels that you are reading or exploring? I'll answer that very, very shortly, but I wanted to say that I'm curious to hear what you, Jonathan, are presently reading. What are the graphic novels that you are exploring, and also, most importantly, what is in your collection? Which ones do you like? Do you like the Europeans, the US, the British, or Japanese? There's quite a variety to choose from, and sadly, it's first of all great to hear that Jonathan, who is, I believe, also our compatriot here from London, is writing about this, because in Britain we all had traditionally a very kind of frosty reception given to graphic novels overall. They were seen as inciting violence, being bad culture, being pulp, and I don't know what. And I mean, some graphic novels are like that, fair enough, but these ones I'm not going to be reading. But in London we've had quite a number of very large shops with lots of albums which were published primarily in Europe, I must admit. And I used to go to Zwemmes, which is in the very heart of the city. If you're familiar with West End, you go down Charing Cross Road. Zwemmes was there on the corner. And the reason for that was quite simple. They had the best collection of film books in central London. Usually the books were, well, it was quite a variety. And many of those were monographs and coffee table books, the big ones coming from Taschen, and where you can just browse and look at the photographs. And I was always in awe of wonderful cinematic, high quality monochrome photography, and they had very many books of that sort in there. Sadly, Zwemmes is gone, they're no longer there, and just like any other bookshop in London really. But in the basement they had quite a few graphic novels, and there was quite a selection, loads of albums. I remember buying their Little Nemo, 2 albums in fact, of the original series, and Little Nemo was a very, very important, well, it's one of the very first graphic novels ever released. And if you're familiar with the history of animated films, its creator, Winsor McKay, he was the person who also did Gertie the dinosaur, the first animated cartoon, or one of the first animated cartoons ever made. And the story of Little Nemo is a bit of It's like a fairy tale. You get into his dreams, and then you travel around the world, which is a dream world, and explore different activities in there. So I bought it there. The other big shop that everybody used to go to was Forbidden Planet, and they've changed locations, and I think it's still there in Oxford Street, but I've been to it several times, and well, actually I've been to it many times. But if you really, as a Londoner, you will be familiar. My favorite shop for graphic novels has been Comics Tape and Video and Book Exchange in Notting Hill. And as I lived in Notting Hill in the late 80s and early 90s, I used to go there every day. So it was just a stroll away from where I lived. And they had a fantastic collection of graphic novels, and also they had a turnaround of new titles. So for instance, if there were like Snowed Under, with people bringing in unwanted comics, then they would offer them on the price of about 10 or 20 pence, and they would just throw everything in the basement. You go in there and you walk away with literally sacks of comics and graphic novels in very large quantity. And I remember getting there the first selection of the original Conan the Barbarian that was published by Marvel in the 70s, and also Doc Savage, and what was it? There's several of those very important series from the 70s, and they're all in top-notch condition, maybe read just once. So that was my favorite shop for graphic novels in London, and it still is one of my favorite shops today. I've not been there for a little while, hopefully it's still there, but they always been very popular, and the small chain that was established in Notting Hill in the 70s, and originally they were dedicated just to tape and video exchange. So you had records, CDs, and everything else. Well, records and vinyl first of all, and then later they sort of expanded to some of the shops that were also offering computer games and books and clothing. And if you are a Notting Hill local, or if you are a Londoner, you will be familiar with these shops. There were some of the most popular second-hand shops for many years in London, and I thoroughly enjoyed going there every single time. So absolutely 10 out of 10. And I've never been there even once and then walked away with nothing on me. I always bought something. Half of most of my library at the time was acquired through that shop, because you would get fantastic books for like 50 pence each, and it was impossible to get anything like that anywhere else in London. So many graphic novels, Jonathan, I bought there. And I give an example, Blueberry, for instance. I bought there the whole selection of albums. Then Corto Maltese. Then I had the whole selection of 2008 AD, Slain and Judge Dredd, and Dan Dare albums published by Eagle, I think. Then we've had Trigger Empire albums. It's just, the list goes on and on. I just like collecting these albums. Richard Corbin's albums I bought there as well. I had maybe about 10 of them, and I really liked Corbin. He was a terrific illustrator and a wonderful graphic novel artist. I think for myself, Don Lawrence and his Trigger Empire are kind of pivotal, and there will never be any other graphic novel as significant in my life for myself as Trigger Empire. And it's funny because I read Trigger Empire together with Carl the Viking, which was the other the other character he created, and the difference there was quite considerable, because Trigger Empire was done in color, and Carl the Viking was just ordinary, usual kind of monochrome comic strip. And I liked the both because the characters in Carl the Viking looked very similar, like the chaps in Trigger Empire, but it was the color that grabbed me. I had those magazines that otherwise would be black and white with few color printouts, and these were dedicated to Trigger Empire. You would get installments from week to week, and that for me was a revelation. And quite frankly, it was Trigger Empire that drew me to my interest in comic strips and graphic novels overall, and then later to video games, because in the games like Mass Effect, and I guess I'll try this now, and then what else? Let me think. well, Mass Effect would probably closest to Gears of War, maybe to a degree. These are the games that are aligned to that Dragon Empire world, and I guess Mass Effect more than any other, because you have a multitude of different situations and characters, and it's exactly the same in Dragon Empire. It's like a big world out there with loads of different characters, and it's run a mixture of the characters who look like walkways from Roman Empire and ancient Greece, and then being in a world which is attacked by Mekons and Martians and all kinds of weird enemies that need to be defeated, and they're facing all sorts of challenges. He also worked on Storm many years later. It was about 15-17 years later, and Storm looked very much like Dragon Empire and was released in Holland because he couldn't get a publisher in Britain. Surprise, surprise. And another very good, very high quality graphic novel which I absolutely adore. So it's Don Lawrence and Martin Ludwig, he is writer, who were producing these in Holland, and also bought quite a selection of Storm albums at that store in Notting Hill. It's still there. If you are around, Jonathan, pop in and have a look. I'm quite certain it's still there. I've not been there for a few years, but they're sort of well entrenched in the local kind of environments, and they've been there for many years and offering all those beautiful things to the local community members. Also, the thing is, Notting Hill does have a lot of people from the arts and from entertainment industry, and they frequently bring a lot of stuff to these shops. And I remember seeing quite a number of well-known writers literally bringing a carload of books and magazines, just not having anywhere to put them. Also, people who worked in newspapers and people who were writing reviews, so they got loads of copies from the publishers for reviews, and they have no space for them at home, therefore they would all end up in the shops, and I've got quite a few of these. And the last question, well, the question that Jonathan asked was about what graphic novels, DRBMiller, are you reading at the moment? And I have two tips for you. First of all, I'll tell you what these graphic novels are, right? So at the moment, I have Nevermore, which is an iClassic release, and it's basically a graphic adaptation of Edgar Allan Poe's short stories. It's quite an interesting album, and it has a collection of the short stories. I quite like some of them. They look very good, but they're just as strange as some of the Poe's novels. Self-Made Hero is the publisher, so it's Nevermore, a graphic adaptation of Edgar Allan Poe's novels. Then I have Stieg Larsson's The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and I have all three graphic novels, the installments. You'll be familiar with the story. It's Stieg Larsson's famous trilogy with Lisbeth Salander as the main character. And then also they made a television series in Sweden, which was later turned into a film, and absolutely in awe of that, and watched them all. They also made two other installments in the US, the Girl Who Played with Fire, and also The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And in the American version, you had Daniel Craig and Rooney Mara. And I really liked the film as well. A lot of people prefer the Swedish trilogy, but still I think those films were quite different. So the graphic novels I have are hardbacks. They're beautiful and absolutely wonderful, and all in color, pristine condition. Really enjoyed reading them. So it's Stieg Larsson's The Girl Who Played with Fire, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Then I have Star Wars. I have several. I have Epic Collection. So I have Star Wars based on the original rough draft screenplay by George Lucas. So that's basically reworking the original story that we've seen in the second part of the trilogy. Then we have Marvel's Star Wars Epic Collection, Infinities and Legends. So loads of different episodes, all tied together here in a major album. So very good looking, absolutely beautiful. So it's Marvel Volume 1. So it is Volume 1 indeed of Star Wars. Then we have Jupiter's Legacy, Mark Miller's and Frank Quietly album as well. This is a very good graphic novel. It's reminiscent of superheroes, but it's also done as an indie title. So also it does have some illustrations and work in progress towards the end, which is they call it Jupiter's Requiem. Oh, no, hang on. Mark Miller, Frank Whiteley, Sonny Go, Peter Doherty. That's not Pete Doherty, it's someone else. He is a person who is the illustrator and who works for this company. Rob Miller and Rachel Fulton. And you have some illustrations and storyboards at the very end of this lovely album. Then a graphic novel I really liked, Undying Love. Tom Coker and Daniel Friedman. It's like a film noir, really good stuff, really like it, and highly recommend it to everyone. That's volume 1, and basically it is a story about a character who's like a detective, discovers a person who's being chased by someone, and then they just crack on. And then I have the whole selection of Hellblazers. Hellblazer is a very well-known series we have published here in various magazines. I've got them here in the album format, published by Vertigo. So I have City of Demons, I have Pandemonium, and then also have a collection of Hellblazer. Let me see where the collection is. There it is. Again, Vertigo. We have Good Intentions, and let me see how many of these other novels are there. We have Hard Time Part 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, Good Intentions 1 to 6, and Buried, Freezes Over 1 to 4, and The First Time. So it's the whole selection of graphic novels there. You'll be familiar with Hellblazer and John Constantine. They had also a film version with Keanu Reeves. And then what else do I have? I have James Bond. And for all of you who are not familiar, James Bond was a newspaper comic strip which was published I think in Daily Mail and Daily Mirror for quite some time, and then I have it in another album format. So we have Omnibus 5, we have Till Death Do Us Part, The Torch Time Affair, Ape of Diamonds, The Xanadu Connection, and many more. So we have quite a selection of these here. Let me just see if the list is in there. Xanadu Connection, Deathwing, Sea Dragon, When the Wizard Awakes, Ape of Diamonds, Nightbird, Hot Shot, Till Death Do Us Part, and The Torch Time Affair. And just to put in perspective, these were the comic strips published in the 70s, from about 72 to about 79. Very popular at the time, as the overall James Bond series always are. Then we're coming to the end of what I have here on the bookshelf, right? We have New Moon, and that is wait a minute, Twilight, of course. Twilight, the graphic novel, volume 1, based on Stephanie Meyer's book and films. Star Trek, I have Captain's Log and volume 12, so I have 2 of these. Very good and very entertaining. Anyone who's playing Star Trek Online will be entertained, so very good to see. Then we have also the very last one, and this is Showcase presents Batman. So we have loads of these here. All of them are Batman comic strips from the 1970s, 1971 to, well, all of them were published in 1971 I suppose. And we'll have Asylum of the Futurians, The House That Haunted Batman, Takeover Paradise, Man in the Eternal Mask, A Vow from the Grave. Then we have Blind Range of the Ten-Eyed Man, Into the Den of the Death Dealers, Daughter of the Demon, Legacy of Hate, Freak Out at Phantom Hollow, Half an Evil, Legend of the Keyhook Lighthouse, Swamp Sinister, Challenge of the Consumer Crusader, Man Bat Madness, and the last one is Wail of the Ghost Bride. Well, no, it isn't actually. You've got 20 other comic strips there. So I'm not going to go through all the list, but you know what? This book has more than 1,000 pages. Let's see. Yeah, that's right. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's massive. All kinds of Batmans in there, but I think that's probably one of the best showcase editions that I would have seen, and they've been published by DC Comics, of course. Very good. So, well, this was my lengthy answer to Jonathan. And Jonathan is a member of our community. He's based in London. Jonathan is watching our streams frequently and has been participating in some of our reviews. And these were of Anthem, of the Division 2, and Ghost Recon, and the list just goes on and on. We had quite a few reviews over the years. And thank you, Jonathan. So this was my lengthy answer to your question. As you could see, about 20 different graphic novels here on my desk, and always great to revisit, and equally great to revisit some of the albums that I have in my collection. The vast majority of those were bought at that they were bought in that Notting Hill shop, and it is called Comics and Book Exchange. So highly recommended to everyone. If there are two favorite bookshops that I have in London, there will be the one I've mentioned in Notting Hill, and the other is in Bloomsbury, called Judd Books. Judd Books is one of those old style bookshops with second-hand and other print books, very similar to what we had previously on Charing Cross Road, and very many previously there. I mean, I remember walking Tottenham Court Road in Charing. We spent sometimes a whole day from 9 in the morning to about 6 at night, just going to bookshops. But the vast majority, 99% of these have gone, and there are still a few left, but they're basically antiquarian, you know, with rare books and valuables and that. You don't have the usual second-hand bookshop there anymore because of the prices and everything else, and obviously digital downloads and digital access on, you know, Kindle and all other platforms. But Judd Books is definitely the one that I always visit anytime I'm in central London, and they have a fantastic selection of books on specific topics. So be it art, be it cinema, be it modern politics, be it literature, be it history, you will not be disappointed. And the price is also very good. They do not sell them on, you know, particularly high prices. So therefore you can also walk in and walk away with lots and lots of different titles. Also, they have many books which were printed in other countries. From the US, from France, from Germany, and you know, really top notch. And if you're looking for something which is a bargain and second hand, then you definitely want to go to the one in Notting Hill. So anyone who is a comic strip collector, you will find quite a number of those there, and most highly recommended. I'm trying to think when I was there last. It's been a few years, you know, time's gone by so fast. And I lived in Notting Hill for many years, but recently I don't think I've been there in the last 3 or 4 years. And you know, it's so interesting because your question, Jonathan, made me go there, and I will go there, not at the moment due to the pandemic, but once the pandemic is finished, then I'll go there. And I'll specifically go to, well, I have the usual stroll. I'll go to the top of Pembridge Road, where the shop is, and then I'll stroll down the Portobello Road towards Westway, go down to Goulburn Road Market, and then I'll go and have some Portuguese cakes in patisseries. And that's what I used to do. These patisseries we used to have on Friday afternoon, always like a banquet of different types of sweets that were bought in those two patisseries. Hopefully they're still there. Not been there for a little while, and they were absolutely terrific. I particularly liked these creamy cakes with peaches. They were really terrific. So anyone who goes there, have a look at these patisseries. If these ones are not there anymore, I'm sure you'll find some other places that will be of equal interest. Portobello Road, one of the most popular areas for tourists, and extremely busy on Saturdays when the market is up and running. But I used to go down on Fridays as well when I lived local. I lived just around the corner. I lived right at the end of Portobello Road. So, you know, St. Charles Square, that is where I was. And it was just a stroll away, literally a couple of minutes, and you were having a look, and it was just great. It's the old days, golden old days. You know, people remember the Westway, the Clash, all the music scene out there, all the pubs and everything else that was going on. Notting Hill was buzzing with energy, and these were the days. I don't think it does have the same aura today, for whatever reason. I think trends have changed, people have changed, and you know, things are different today. But my favorite haunts are still there, and it's always a true joy to be watching up and down. And several restaurants I used to go to, my goodness, believe you me, some of the restaurants were really good. I used to go to Kensal Rise, to Indian restaurants there, There was a wonderful Turkish restaurant also in Kenzalais, then several Indian restaurants in where was it? Well, it was just halfway through Pembridge Road. I'm trying to think. Queensway Road. Yeah, no, it's not Queensway Road. What's the goal? I can't remember now. The road that goes directly to Queensway, but it's not the Bayswater Road. Queensway Road, must be. Anyway, I'm just rambling. So we come to the end of our podcast for today. Thank you to all of our friends who are taking time to write. Hope you enjoyed some of our discussions and responses in here, and recommendations indeed for anyone who is a graphic novels fan who wants to go to the best shops. That certainly is my personal favorite. And I forgot to mention, Jonathan, there was also the first second-hand video game shop also down there next to Gates Cinema, and it was called Computer Exchange, and you were able to get in the 1990s the very best of well, anything that was released really through Microsoft in particular, and I remember buying my first video games there. So these shops really stay in my heart forever, and I remember the golden old days, and still have the boxes, you know, of these old books, Black Dahlia and The Ripper and Harvester and 3DC and Beyond Steel Skies, and the list just goes on and on, the games I purchased at the time. So time flies by, but the memories remain. Alright, so that's all for today. Hope you enjoyed our podcast. We've had a combination of the overall industry and community-based news. We kind of rambled a bit on some of the issues that were crossing my mind as I was answering our friends' questions. So thank you all for that. Thank you for participating, and indeed for being members of our community, for supporting the channel and our activities here on Twitch and YouTube, other platforms. And we'll carry on with Fallout 3 very shortly. Give us 5 minutes to refresh. I need to have a bite to eat, and I need to kind of stretch a bit, get some fresh air, and then we'll venture into our wonderful, wonderful, very mysterious, very deadly, but very exciting world of Fallout 3 Remastered Game of the Year Edition, easily accessible through Xbox Game Pass and part of Macbeth Festival here on my channel. So thank you for watching. I'll be back in 5 minutes.